Hey, welcome back. All right. This is a really cool system we worked on the last live stream. Here's where we kind of landed, is getting our article system kind of set up. Now, I actually have added a couple of elements in here, so it's not looking quite as nice and polished as it was at the end of the previous live stream. So that's why I wanted to add these so that we could see kind of where the holes are that we still haven't considered yet. Because a lot of these things that I've added are pretty common. Some of them are not as common, like little keyboard. There's a keyboard element that is supposed to be used for when you're talking about clicking, hitting the control or the alt tab or whatever it is. Maybe I write articles sometimes about keyboard shortcuts, which is why this is important to me. So there's a couple of those little things that you probably don't actually use very often, but are still really important to, one, take care of, and to actually know about, so that your content can be better suited, better accessible, for people with disabilities, for SEO purposes, for even just making things look a little bit nicer, and using kind of the real, what do I want to say, the juicy stuff of the HTML, because I think a lot of people think HTML is just like divs and paragraphs, and it's like that's not how it is. So we've got some stuff to work on here. We've got these iframes, that's a common one, doing videos. We've got some code that we need to fix, and a couple of image tweaks that I want to make to make this a little bit better, especially when we're using things like, maybe we're using WebP and we want to have some fallback support, so we're actually using the picture element instead of just a straight image tag. So there's some stuff that we've added. So this one works, right? This image is one that we had worked on, but there's just some extra stuff. So let's dive right in and see where we go from here to kind of improve our typography, improve the whole reading experience, for somebody landing on a long form piece of content on your website potentially. So let's go into the code really fast, just to get you situated, because I know it's been a little bit. We're only pulling in the styles from here, and the only thing I have imported is actually this article dot SCSS. So these are that's my, this is my reboot, basically, like the very bare bones of anything. It's all here. I am using this kind of a layout. That's kind of how I've squished it and taken care of the reading length. I'm still planning on revamping this and kind of making my own, because I think I stole all of this from Ryan Mulligan's article, which I mentioned last time, and also Kevin Powell, a little bit of his, I think his flair on some of this too. So I do want to make this my own, but I think that's, a little bit less of what this ultimately is about, which is more about the typography. Granted, I know I'm already, stepping on my own foot, because, the layout of the length of your lines is part of typography. But I just feel like this is something that's maybe outside of the scope of this project that we're working on. So anyway, just making you aware that that's the case, and that's how we've made the layout work. But otherwise, we kind of jump into our typography down here, where we're really just typesetting our elements. We've got font sizes, we've got spacing that we're taking control of, and this is kind of where we ended up, which was adding quite a few of these what do I want to say, kind of stacking order spacing. So we want to be able to control, when a heading is up top and then some kind of, maybe it's a list, or maybe it's another paragraph. When those things are following the heading, what do we do with the spacing in between? And so that's it is getting a little bit unwieldy, and I do want to try and find ways to maybe use Sass to create these for us so that we don't have to keep doing this, because like this is incomplete because it could be H2, H3, or it could be an H2 and an H5, even though that breaks SEO and accessibility by doing your headings out of order. We still want to accommodate that, and we also have to accommodate, what about H3 to H4? What about H5 to H6? So I want to see if we can make a little generator for this. The first thing I want to do, though, before we get into some of this more complicated stuff, is I want to just finish up some of those elements, like I said, that I've added to our article, so it's a little bit more robust. And we're going to, I think we'll just start off with the pictures. So let me show you what's going on here. If we go over to our article, we can see that we've added an image, but it's inside of the picture tag. Now this one, it's not super necessary to put in a picture tag. Not everybody's going to do that, especially when there's just one image. But if we had, a WebP version and we wanted to make this PNG a fallback in case of WebP not being supported in that browser, whatever it is, and we add in our little source tag with the source set of the WebP, that is very common, a lot more common for sure than just the picture surrounding this. But the problem with this is that it breaks the system we already made. So if we head over to the article here, I'm gonna try and find this. Oh yeah, so it is this first one. You can see it's right up against the text, and that's actually something that we had fixed or solved for in the last live stream, because we don't want text to be right on top and right below our image. It just needs some breathing room, right? And so the only reason that's happening is that actually because of that picture element. So if I actually get rid of that and if I hit save and refresh, you can see, hey, it's all fixed now. So I'm gonna replace those picture elements. So now we still are back with our problem, right? So now let's go find out how to fix that. We're gonna go into our code. We're gonna look at I believe this is our only image. Yeah, that's our only image property here, or style declaration. And what we want to do is we want to add the picture element into this mix. So the picture element plus P and P plus picture. And if we hit save, go back over here and refresh, and now we're back to where we were. So our picture is good. However, there is one more that we need to take a look at, which is the figure element, which is another potential container surrounding element. Let me show you what that looks like right here in the code. Pretty similar story. We've got a figure element, we've got an image in here. We've actually got also a caption on this, and that's part of the reason why a figure might be used. And also I wanted to show you this super great reference here is developer.mozilla.org. They have this HTML's elements reference. I'll leave this linked in the notes below. But on the side here, this is so fun to read. I know it's kind of nerdy to say that, but I love reading this for understanding what these elements are for, especially when it concerns accessibility, because there's a lot of nuance to these, and they may not be apparent just by the naming. So let's take a look at figure. So, and they've actually got the same kind of thing here. It's very similar to what we've got on our test article, but the thing here is that this is really important to note, like why we're using a figure element. Partially is because of the caption. We can, it's usually referenced in the main flow of the document. but maybe it's taken out, kind of like a footnote, or like if you're reading a textbook, you've got a big long, couple of columns and it says see figure 1. That's what this is referring to. It's like, it's a figure. It's something that you can look back and go back into the content. So it's kind of like a potentially something that takes you out of your current place and then you come back to it. On the internet, that's probably not as common as like a textbook reading flow, but that's kind of where I think the inspiration for this element comes from. You can just use it with just the image and not use the figure caption. And let's see, I think, yeah, oh, actually you can do it for, so that's the other thing, is like, it's not just for images. You could put your poem in there, you could put a quote in there. It's a lot more variable potentially, and flexible. So anyway, that's kind of why I wanted to point you into this resource, because this is important stuff to know, because it's going to make your content so much more accessible, readable. It's going to be so much nicer when you take care of these little details like this, because it just makes things so much better. So let's go find our figure. I've got a notes heading here. So obviously this image is not worth being a figure. It's a totally pointless image, but the point here is to kind of, again, account for that figure element, which is right here in our code. And again, we also have the image caption goes here. We've got our fig caption. Let me show you what that looks like right here. We've got it right underneath our image, and that's going to be super confusing, because to a sighted user, they're gonna, if you see this, it almost looks like it's part of like the paragraph, or it's like its own paragraph, so that the style as it is right now just doesn't make sense. And so we need to make sure that that is fixed. Accessibility wise, it's probably just fine, because we're using a fig caption and it's associated inside of this figure. Therefore, it's not going to be as much of a problem for non-sighted users. Hopefully, I have not tested this yet. So that's the idea. That's kind of the point of this tag here. So we're going to pop back over to our CSS, and we're going to add one more thing here. And honestly, because this is so generic, I am comfortable adding this, even if it were something like a poem or some other type of figure, a quote, something like that, because I feel like this spacing would be appropriate for those specific use cases, even if I don't know what they're going to be. So even if I don't know that the figure is going to have a poem in it versus a picture, I'm still comfortable with how this is working in context of the article. And let me show you what this does here. So P plus figure, and I'm gonna hit save. We're gonna go back here and refresh, and we now finally have some space around it. In fact, this even makes this image caption a little bit better, because I'm totally comfortable with a left aligned caption. Left aligned text is just plain easier to read for languages that are in the left to right direction. If your language is in right to left, it's probably better to right align your text. That's kind of the point, because the reason why is because we read left to right, and when we have a little ragged edge, kind of like this end of our top two highlighted, what am I saying? These two lines I've highlighted, it's a lot easier to start at the exact same place. So if you just counter, format, those are all aligned on the same side. And so when I get to kind of a random ending, which is, not quite all the way at the very far right, there's a little bit of space there, even after, because output is probably as close as it gets to that far right edge. It's a lot easier for your eye and your brain to just go straight to a constant on the left, even though it ends kind of randomly on the right, it makes it so much easier to read. So anyway, I'll have to do a demonstration on that because I feel like that's fascinating. But that's one of the reasons why you should avoid justifying your text. We don't want it to go from left to right with perfect straight edges because it makes it harder to read. And again, same kind of deal with centered text, because you're starting at random places and ending at random places instead of having one place where you start even though you end it at random place. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox, but all that to say is that I'm comfortable with a left aligned image caption, even if it is small, kind of like this. But there is some things we could do to make this just a little bit more set apart from the text, if you will. So let's go into our code and take care of that. So that would be a fig caption. That was our element. And a lot of times we see this in italics for, the font style. So we can go ahead and add that. Oops, font style is italic. So if we put it into italics, let's take a look at what that does for us. And it just kind of, it separates it from the body text, even though it already is kind of obvious because it's so close in relation to the image. However, I don't like how it is so close to the image because, again, it's kind of the same reason why we separated it from the image from the body text in the first place. It needs some breathing room. So we can increase that just a little bit, and we could also take the size down just a little bit. I'm not super a fan of that, but since we are at 16, this is a 16 pixels since we're just using rems and I haven't messed with the font size or the font base, whatever for rems. This is a really nice size for reading, for readability and accessibility. I think we could get away with a 14-point font for our fig caption here. So let's do font size. We can do a 14 pixel font. Let me change that into rems actually. So 14 divided by 16, 875. Okay. So now you know my secret here. 0.875, which is don't do hard math in my head, especially not on a live stream. And so that is looking a little bit nicer. And then finally, we just need to add in that margin top. Now, we don't want to have it be the same as our normal fonts or spacing between the picture and the text, because that would be way too much and it would also look really weird. So if I put that in here, let me show you what that looks like. Awful. Because now we don't know where this belongs. Does this actually belong to the image? Does it belong to the paragraph below it? I have no idea because I would have to actually read it and make my brain work harder to figure out what this means. So we're going to we're going to decrease the space above this image caption. So it's going to be a little bit closer to the image, not as close to the text, but not as close as it was before. So I think, I'm almost wondering if we kind of borrow our logic from our lists, because what we did with our lists earlier was, it's a little bit farther away from the text below it, because usually a list is kind of in context of something else. It usually doesn't hang out by itself, so it doesn't deserve a full space kind of like between paragraphs, and it's a tiny bit associated with what's above it. So I think I'm gonna grab this value here and we're gonna replace that for our fig caption, and that just looks a little bit better because now we can see, based on just the space alone, if we just are looking really fast at this, we know that this image caption line probably belongs to the image itself rather than this text here. So just that little subtlety helps to kind of tie it together. I almost wonder, we might be able to tighten it up just a little bit more since it's a smaller font size. And so let's take a look at what that would look like. Maybe we'll just change it to a 0.5 rem. So let's see what that does. That actually feels better to me. And I do think it's because we shortened this font size just a little bit. So yeah, I'm thinking that's looking good actually. So, but again, feel free to make that call. But yeah, I think that is the right call. So that'll make it interesting for when we kind of pull out all of these values and kind of make a better system, like an actual system using variables and property values, CSS properties, to make this a little less, you have to constantly redo the same thing over and over again. I think we need to set up a little system for our spacing. So that'll be something that we need to remember, is that this one's just a little bit different, a little bit special because of the font size. So anyway, let's keep going here. We've got the fig caption done. We got the figure. All right. Oh yeah. So I wanted to show you this because this one was something that I kind of struggled with for a little bit. Legal stuff. That is a long form use case. You've got privacy policies. You've got, maybe it's a EULA page, or subscriber agreements, things like that. Cookie policy pages. There's going to be all kinds of stuff on websites. Even if you're not in marketing, you probably have to deal with some legal pages at some point. But sometimes the lists are actually supposed to be in different formats. And it kind of just depends, I guess, on the lawyer. I don't actually know, what the significance is in the legal field, but I just know that sometimes I have had to override our standard, list of going from 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, and just using indents. Sometimes they need it to be 1.1, 1.1.1 if they keep going down here. And sometimes it needs to be 1 up top and then ABC on this interior list here. So we're going to take care of that right now. Let's jump down into our code. And perfect, we're already kind of on this little list area section. And let me grab, I just wanted to make sure that I had this right. Okay, so I think there's going to be two potential variants for legal specific. You don't have to call it legal if you don't want to, but this is kind of how I've approached it. What I've done, let me actually show you what this is. Legal. So I've actually added a class here called legal on top of this OL, the very top parent. I actually wonder if we kind of add like a dot notation or something, and then also an alpha numeric notation, something like that. So maybe actually I'll be like notation dash dot, and then it will be notation alphanumeric. That way we can just set up kind of a consistent naming for it. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this one. So we're going to work on the notation for the dot notation first, and then you can just have classes that will swap out the system, because you can't have both of them existing in the same time. So let's do this. Whoops. And let's do one more for the dot notation. And so these are going to be our two classes for those legal-ish systems. It may not even be for just legal. That's why I kind of like this naming convention. And then we'll put it on the OL just to be extra specific. I think that's good to go. I mean, we could even do, since we're in Sass, we could make this kind of like this. But I don't know. I don't think it's going to matter too much since we're just going to cover these two. So the first thing we got to do is we're going to, I think we have to actually take off our list style type. So I'm going to try that list style type. We're going to say none. So what we should see is it goes away. Perfect. Okay, so our parent now goes away. We actually may not need to do that on this one, but we'll see. I'm looking at some notes because this one's actually kind of crazy. Oh, and actually, yeah, this is interesting. So this is a little trick. If I find the article again, I can send this in the notes below. But I don't know. It might be a CSS tricks article. But basically this little counter reset is really important to the dot notation, because we're basically, I think we're naming this, names of counters, and then we're going to change this counter below it. So this is kind of our first setup. We're going to add in the li. So let's see, sorry, I gotta make sure I'm saying this right. Yeah, so our first this is why it's so complicated. I always have to remember my notes. So okay, so our first, so the li that's following the OL with the notation dot class is that's the one we're going to counter increment, and that means we're going to so we're increasing it right on that item, so it's referencing this counter reset, and then we're going to increment it for each list item underneath the original OL. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. And then the last thing, because we did not, so let me just back up here. Let's save this, go over here. We took off our number one from our parents, right? So this is now no longer says number one, it needs to. So we actually have to add back in the counter, but we're going to do this with our pseudo elements like the before. So I'm going to add in our before, and this is the li before, and we're going to add in that counter. So what we're actually going to do is use the content, and this is where we use our counters. We're referencing that item that we've just set up here, and then we choose what's going to be in between that, I believe. So we're going to put a dot. Oh, actually, this is, okay. That's right. So the counter, sorry, I told you that wrong because I was getting ahead of myself. The counters, we're saying we're going to grab the item that we've referenced, so that's the name that we just set. And then the period is going to be right after, because we want it to be pretty similar to this, where it's 1 dot and then it does, your line, 2 dot and then your text. We want the same thing up here, but this time we need to be able to hack it so that we can add more dots. And so we've basically just, let me even just save and refresh and see if that fixes it. So yeah, so you can see right now it's just got the 1 on there. And we also need to add one more thing. Let's see. So maybe I did actually tell you right the first time, because I think we also have to add this, a dot and a space, because I think that's the this is the actual end, because every this is why it's so crazy. Okay, every line, the one is going to have a dot and then a space. And so when we're stacking, so below it, we now need to make it so it goes 1 dot 1 dot, and that's why we had this. So yeah, this one's the one in between the numbers, and this one's at the very end. I think I got that right finally. So thanks for letting me struggle here. Yeah. So now we're still not seeing, we've got it fixed, right? We've fixed the parent. Good job. But let's make this work so that it works with the children as well. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to add another line underneath this li. So we have our parent, we have the first child, and then we're going to do oh, and you know what? This actually might be better if we take it out of this. Well, we're just going to go for it. Because I think there might be a better way to do this, but I'm going to say and OL, because we're now going to say we're starting another ordered list, right? And that's also going to have an LI, and we're basically copying this exact same thing down into there, so that when there's a nested list inside of this list, it's also going to follow this dot notation. So if I save, okay, cool. So now you can see it's still not quite working just yet, but we can see, yeah, because there's some weird, there's something weird going on there. But we've got our 1.1, our this should be 1.2. That's really what it is, and then 1.3 instead of 3.1. So we're almost there. We also need to, where did it go? That's why I'm actually wondering if I need to take this out of our, I wonder if I have to take it outside of our Sass system. Simply because, yeah, this actually does make it kind of complicated, because this part right here needs to be more, this is what I've got it, how I've got it in my notes. A little bit more generic, and I think that'll help with more than just explicitly doing 2 nested, because it could be 3, right? We even have 3 nested here in the example, where we've got this top one, we've got our second nested and a third nested, and so I gotta figure out, yeah, dang it. Well, there you go. It's a little tough. This one's a tough one. So anyway, let's keep going though. I'm gonna give us some space here so we can work with this. Yeah, I just want to make sure I've got this all correct. I must be missing something, because I'm actually, let's see. Oh, wait, maybe I'm just, yeah, because I feel like that's wrong, where we've got our, I'm pretty sure it should be 1.1 and then 1.2, because it's saying the first one should be referencing the parents counter. So when in doubt, let's just grab our notes here. I'm just gonna pop it in on top, and then we'll see what it does. I'm going to comment all this stuff out. Sorry about that. We're debugging on the fly. So yeah, it did actually fix that. So now this is 1.1, 1.3.1. So that actually fixed it. So let's dive in and see what the difference is. Obviously, I had actually put in some like margin that I'm going to have to, because that was from my notes. I'm going to have to... All right. All right, so again, we're taking out our list. Oh, you know what? That's probably why, because this was specific to dot notation. I almost wonder if that's all it was. Okay, so let's fix this. Let's go back to what we had. And I'm going to save. We can see that we're back to our broken state, right? So I'm going to go back to our code. I'm going to get rid of this class. And I wonder if that fixes it. Yep, that fixes it. Okay, so that's where we have to come up with a better way of adding stuff, because I don't love the idea of having a parent, like adding extra HTML structure because a lot of times it's other people that are doing these things, like putting in the content, and a developer or somebody who has really studied the right way to do things is probably not doing the content, and that's probably the way it should be. However, that makes it really hard. I mean, it's hard enough just to make somebody, put in a class name, let alone having to put a parent around it. So I wonder how else we can try and fix this. I mean, it's probably better to have a parent than to add the class on each OL, because that's even less likely. So I might just have to bite the bullet here and do div dot, oops, we'll make a div here. Come on, there we go. Put back in our class, and then we're just going to surround our list with this div here. Not my favorite thing. Notation dot, and then we'll just surround this as well. And go back here and see how that looks. That is accomplishing what we set out to do. So we have our 1.1, 1.2, etc. But yeah, we're probably just gonna have to do the parent thing right there, just because we do need these to be less specific. Let's just make sure that that's the case. We could put one more OL in here. I'm gonna copy this, and let's just put it inside of here. We'll just do yet another level and see what that does. If we refresh, and we're down here, should be 3. Okay, so this is the first 3.3. Is that right? Oh yeah, because it's okay. So the 3. So it's 3, 3.3, 3.2, 3.2.1. 3.2.2, 2.1.2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1. Oh my goodness. Okay, so it is working with egregious amounts of nesting, simply because of that. Let me go back here. Because this is a little bit less specific. It's just like when it's nested, this is how we're doing the counters, right? We had to kind of set up the parent Yeah, I feel like that's probably going to be our best shot here. So cool. That works though. The other cool thing that I did in this from those notes that I had copied over was actually to display this out as a table, which just helped a little bit with some of the way it lines up. I don't know that we need that in this case, but there are still some weird little spacing issues, like this line here butts up right against the top of this line, but it has some nice spacing here. So we do need to update our spacing just a little bit. So let's go ahead and take a look. I'll actually just go ahead and take a look at what we had with our with my notes. Let's go ahead and set it as a table and see how that affects things. So the first thing that I'm going to do is we're going to actually put it right here, display as a table. Let's go ahead and watch what that does when I save. It doesn't really do much. Let me refresh. Yeah, it doesn't really do much. But now we can do this, which is going into our, let's see, OLLI before, and then we're going to display this. Oop. Gotta have a semicolon there. Display as a table cell. And let's check this out. Save. Okay, a little bit different. It's just slightly different. So if I go back, I'm gonna comment that out so we can see the difference. There is a slight difference in how it kind of shifts, and partially that is to account for the spacing between the counter itself and the start of the line. And so I want to hurry and fix that so that it doesn't look quite so squished together. And what we're going to do here is we're going to add in just a little bit of a padding right. And what I had done was 0.6 em. Let's check out what that does. Save, and there we go. So we have just a little bit nicer space that almost kind of creates its own lines between the numbers and the content itself. That just gives a little bit of extra breathing room, makes it a little bit easier to follow. And so I do kind of like that. I might actually just change it to 0.5 because I think that should be just, yeah, I feel like that's kind of makes more sense in the way that we've been numbering things as well, because we've done a lot of things on right on the, you know, the M or the rem or halves or 0.75s, like kind of quarters. So I feel like the math gets a little bit easier when we stick with this kind of system. And then the last thing is we want to take care of some of our spacing, because let's see, yeah, again, we're still getting this problem, and that actually might be oh man, and then this one gets a little bit crazy because of that table. So actually this makes for an interesting use case, because we've added this display as table. It actually has pushed this extreme copy all the way out of our normal flow, because we can see it's outside of our margins. If we were to, you know, draw a line from this gray box up top, it is very much overflowing, and we're horizontal scrolling now. So that's actually pretty bad. So I almost wonder if we get rid of kind of that table display, just because we can't always control the content. Wish we could. And I don't know if it's necessary in this case. So I'm going to leave this commented just in case you want to remember what this did. But if we go back here, we can see it is no longer overflowing. We don't have a horizontal scroll. The only difference is the numbers are not quite as lined up so nicely so that they're, you know, clearly tabbed all the way under. So, you know, right here, the 3 below this V word is slight, you know, there's some space under there. And then we get to set Dolor, and we've got the 3 pretty much lining up with it. And then we've got this ulam, and then the 3, you know, below that is very much more in line with the 1 above it than the word. And then down here, you know, set Dolor, the 3 on this line is practically lined up with the 1 again on this set Dolor Amit line. So it's not the prettiest. If you want it to be more beautiful, then you got to use that table cell trick to make things lining up so nicely. But again, if your content is ridiculously nested, that probably won't be a great solution. So there's a couple of ways to work on that. So maybe we could just move, because we do have I don't know. You know, I'm gonna be good with this because I feel like that's probably as good as it's going to get with some of this. I do want to get rid of some of this extra space on the left, though, because there's no reason for it to be so far indented. So if we take this, so you can see this green bar here on the screen, that's the margin there. And I think that's a little bit excessive, or the padding, sorry. Yeah, I still think that's a little bit of excessive. Let's take a look. Let's see, what did we do here on our ordered lists? Oh, so we actually haven't modified our padding left just yet. So that'll actually be good because now we can take a look at how the OLs and the ULs probably align. I think this is too much. I think the default here is way too much padding. So let's go and fix that. Here I am. Yeah, let's do UL, OL. So we fixed our top and bottom, you know, margin issue, but we didn't fix the padding left. Padding left. I almost want to just do like a 25.25 rem here. Let's see what this does, because honestly it should be pretty close to lining up with the text. And you can see actually now this is, the spacing is not going to work, but I want to fix that parent one, the very start, and then we can fix the other. So okay, here we go. This is really bad. We want the dots to at least line up with that vertical line that lines up all of our text. We don't want things to be overhanging it, especially this way, because it's like split across. So like there's a dot and then the text and then the vertical line goes in between the two, and that just does not look good. So we either want the text to line up with the text, or the dots, the list, that style, the list style, whatever it is, whether it's dots or the numbers, that should be lining up on the left line. So let's I'm gonna just adjust it to like a 0.5 rem, sorry. I'm gonna save and just see if that, nope, we still are, so it might be a full rem that we have to do. Let's check that out. Okay, so we're getting close. Still not quite my favorite. Let's take a look. Yeah, and another reason this is not the best is because we're gonna get a little bit okay, so here's what I was saying with, if we had 0 padding, then these dots kind of overhang. I think that could be a solution with these. Probably not ideal for our numbers. That looks really hard to read. But anyway, also, yeah. Actually, I almost wonder if the OL makes more sense than the UL to have it lined up on that back baseline or axis line. Yeah, let's go ahead and split them apart. UL is going to have a different one than an OL. We're going to put our padding left of 1 rem on the UL, padding left on the OL is going to be 0. So let's take a look. We're getting pretty close with this. I still don't think that's quite it. I wonder if we do like an 0.875. That's getting a lot closer. I might go with that for our bullets just because yeah, visually it needs to line up just a little bit better. But then down here, the ones that does look okay lined up with this extra, this heading here. I think that's going to be okay. So let's go back and I'm going to change this to 0.875. Save that. And then we can go back here. Let's take a look at what we did and see if we can actually change this to just be a little bit less aggressive. Okay, that's actually looking a lot better. And yeah, I mean, for the vast majority of cases, this is finally looking more more manageable. I know this is ridiculous to have this one, but I mean, that's 6 levels deep, and that, oh man, if you're doing a document that's 6 levels deep in your points, that's really pushing it. I mean, they only go to H6 for your headings, right? So kind of a similar idea here where we've got H1-ish, H2-ish, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I actually feel like that's probably just fine. And we could, let's see. Yeah, it is staying in line. So we haven't broken out of the flow or our container. So I might just go with that because that looks so much better because we've got, very consistent lines because of that table spacing, so that the line up here lines up with the ones but below it. Same with right here, this line on the, the L, the Q, and the A, all these, this left line here goes down with the 1.3.1. And even, as we continue down, this cell spacing is it just makes it look good. Even though it's not the same spacing, you can see that, this 3.3 has a different spacing than the 3.2 or the 3.2.1 down here. I mean, they're growing, but because of that consistency, that line spacing on the left, it really makes it still look better. A little bit more organized, a little easier to read. So I think that's actually a good solution. Yeah, and I feel like that lines up pretty nice. Okay, well, cool. Let's fix the line spacing in between our line items though, because that has been driving me a little bit crazy. So I think that we can get away with it for any LI. So I'm just going to do a generic LI, so it doesn't matter if it's in a UL or an OL. And this time we're going to do, let's see, we want it to be less than our margin top on the parent. So we're probably going to borrow from our fig caption sizing. Let's see what this does if I do this. So we have 0 margin on the bottom, we have a 0.5 rem on top. Yeah, let's give that a try. So I'm going to save and refresh. So now we've got a lot more consistent spacing in between those line items. A little bit easier to read. I almost wonder if that's too much. Let's try a 0.25 rem. See what that does. I am leaning a little bit more towards this just because the space between each line item is not so dramatic. It was kind of making it a little bit hard to read. And I feel like this is a little bit more flowy. The line height of just the line item, so the white space between this line, that's still okay. The line spacing between actual line items, is just a little bit taller than our line height, which is good because we want it to be clear that this is the line item, right? We don't want the line item to look like it's two separate line items. Yeah, that's probably my best call. Let's take a look at what it did with the ULs. I think that looks pretty good. Do we have another one? Yeah, we do. So that's looking a lot more, I don't know, it looks a lot more flowy. Like I feel like I can read this a little bit better. The nature of this kind of format is going to be less readable. Yeah, and I actually wonder if we need to fix. So the only other issue that I'm seeing is that this parent OL, and then it's the child with another OL inside of it, is a little bit steep because, again, we've got right here, we've got this margin top right here, which is 0.75, whereas the line items are 0.25 in between. So we might have to modify this UL OL to just be when it's like in the context of text, like a paragraph or a heading, I think. Actually, yeah, I feel like that's going to fix this too, because we've got this issue where we've got extra legal stuff, this amazing header, and then we've got a little bit of, should be some margin on top. So we do want to fix that. So let's change our OL and UL to just be for when it is a paragraph following, when the UL is following a paragraph. Oops, put that backwards there. Paragraph, save that. We can see now, hopefully. So yeah, this is our heading 2. OL does not have any margin on top because this is a heading. That's good because we don't want extra space there. And if we go back up to our ULs right here, that still maintains the good spacing between the paragraph and the UL. And then back down here, let me just double check. Yeah, that's looking better in context again with a heading and a UL. And then our spacing isn't quite as dramatic or kind of off, if you will, within our line items to nested OLs. So if that wasn't enough of a headache, there you go. I almost wonder if we could add a little bit more spacing between the line items now, just because we fixed that kind of weird nested spacing issue. So I actually am kind of tempted to go back here, change this to maybe a 0.5, And we might have to break our convention in this case if this doesn't work. But that's actually reading a little bit easier. It might still be a little much, just because this is such dense text, but then it's, yeah, actually I think that's the right call. Okay, well, cool. I think that makes it a much easier reading experience. And we've now fixed kind of our tight spots. The only thing left now is what happens when it's a list or, a list. Let's see, is this just normal text? Let me make sure this is just paragraph text. Oh, you know what? That's why. Dang, that's the other problem with that parent that we introduced that kind of changed our notation type, is now we've lost our, where'd it go? Our, here we go. We've lost our margin top on the paragraph when we have our notations. So we'll have to fix that. We're going to grab our notation dash dot and add it to our classes here that take care of that paragraph following a list. And then I'm going to do the same thing with our next one, which was the alphanumeric plus P. I'm going to do that. Let's save it and refresh and see how now we have a space between this last line item and the paragraph. That has been restored. So now we're good to go. But yeah, that was another thing that I didn't think of with the addition of our parent class. So let's take care of our notation alphanumeric, because sometimes we want something else that's even different than we had before with the with our numbering system. So let me grab my notes there. Save. Okay, so let's change this back. We're going to take it back outside of the notation dot, and we're going to change it to alphanumeric. So I'm going to grab this, and we're going to change this up here to notation alphanumeric. And save, and we can see everything is broken again. So that's perfect. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do a fairly, it's going to be pretty similar to this actually. So I'm going to grab, oops, I need to switch over code. There you go. I'm going to grab what we had from the notation dot to notation alphanumeric. We're going to copy that in, but this time we're going to change our counter, I believe. Where'd it go? Yeah, where'd it go? Where's my notes? Let's see. Find Roman. Okay, well, apparently I broke my own notes because I did not do that right. However, I think what we do is we get rid of, I don't think we need we may not actually need any of this stuff. So let's just try this. I'm going to get rid of the table as well. The table, we don't need counter reset, I don't think. And I don't think we need, we'll actually get rid of that too. So basically what we're doing in this case is we're changing the, we want to keep our parent normal, so it's just the default of 1. So if I go back here, so yeah, we've got our parents they're 1 or 2, you know, the number, but when we go a line item inside of that, we need to change that to like an A or a B. So I believe that is with list style. type, I think, and then Roman. Is that what it is? Lower Roman. So let's save and refresh and see what that does. Oh, that's right. That's what it is. Okay, so it's not Roman. This one's Roman numerals. I was looking for something else though. Let's check a look here. Maybe it is alpha. Is it lower alpha? Okay. So save and refresh, and we can see, okay, so I still have broken the parent because I don't want that first line to be an A, right? I want it to be a 1, and then the lines underneath it are going to be A, B, C, and then the next LI that's outside of that is going to be a 2, and then the nested inside of that is A, B, C again. So we need to add one more level here. So it's not going to be just OL. We might actually just have to explicitly put this as, I think it was it decimal. I think decimal is like just normal numbers. Let's refresh. Nope. Oh, that's because the OL is not the text. Okay, so all right, that's where I got wrong. I need one more. One more nest, I think. There we go. So let me show you that. If it's an OL, that first LI is going to be in decimal. And then once we go down here and it's nested again, I might have to add OL. There we go. There we go. So when we have another nested one, then it's going to be lower alpha. So let's save this, go back here and refresh. Now we can see this is our first list item. These are the nested ones. This one is going to be nested underneath that one. So we need to account for that because there's quite a few levels of nesting here, as you can see. But now at least we've got our parent kind of figured out. That parent level here. I think I don't love this one just because when there are so many nested levels and we're changing things, you do have to redefine it like a bunch of times. So honestly, we're probably going to be doing this again. So copy this. We could put, this is where we can put in that Roman because I think that's pretty typical. Oops, lower Roman. I think that's pretty typical for like your outlines or whatever, where if it's a sub item of your alpha list item, then it goes Roman numerals, kind of like this one. And then you have to keep like recycling after that. So this might be a good use case for a Sass generator kind of a thing, because I don't want to have to go through all 6 of our levels because we have 6 nested styles in this case. But let's fix our spacing because right now it looks really bad with it all on the left side there. Really hard to keep track of. So let's grab what we had from before. I'm going to use our display table. Well, yeah, I mean, we could give that a shot here. Put that on the LI. And then our display table cell. Actually, I don't think we need that. Do we need this at all? Sometimes that doesn't make sense. Okay, so I'm getting rid of that. My bad. I forgot because since we're doing this, it's going to be basically with padding left. We're going to go to our, let's see, if it's an OL and an LI, then we're going to have a padding left. And we've been doing, was it 0.25 rem? Oops. It was 0.875 up here, and then 0.5 right there. So let's just do 0.5 rem and see how that looks. A little bit better. Probably needs to be a little bit more, a little bit steeper. Yeah, I think we can do that a little bit steeper. So let's do maybe like 1 rem. See how that works. That's looking a little bit better. Although I think we're actually increasing. Let me just double check here. So we don't want to increase. Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is probably sufficient. I don't really love. It might need to be on the marker. So there is a pseudo element for the marker, like the 1, the A, the Roman numeral 1. Those we might be able to get away with that. So we could do like we could swap this and say and marker padding left. Let's see what that does. So I'm trying to fix the. Oh, that's not it. Darn it, that didn't do what I was hoping for. I'm not going to waste too much more time on that one. We're just going to keep this as padding left there. I'm going to go look for a better spacing on this specific use case of like switching it's alphanumeric, right? So we have numbers, a mix of letters, Roman numerals, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to look at a better one and find my notes because this is not ideal still. I don't want to leave it quite like this, but I also don't quite have the answers that I have or that I need right now. So basically, as to say, this one's a beast. It could be its own design system, honestly, and might be how we approach it in maybe the next live stream. So we'll put a pin in that. There are still a couple of things I wanted to just show you really fast of just a couple of other things that we have not yet come to. Let me take a look here. Audio. That was another. So this one's kind of cool, actually. We've got this one. Oh, I didn't show you the. Here we go. We've got an audio embed. So maybe it's like a podcast or like you're sharing your music or whatever it is that you've written. You've got this little audio note. This is actually just your audio tag. It's really simple. Let me show you what that looks like. Find audio. So super basic. I just put in the controls and yeah, actually this doesn't even show up. This text here, so I can get rid of that actually, I think, and be just fine. Yeah, so really the only thing we need to do with this one is kind of treat it like an image where we've got some space above and below, and then I also would like it to be full width in this case. Excuse me, just because it makes sense to make it full width, kind of like these images where it kind of spans that whole column that we've got. So I'm going to do that real fast. Let's go back up here. So we can actually just do kind of the same thing as with our image, our picture, figure, blah, blah, blah. We can do that with our audio tag. We're going to do audio when it's followed by a paragraph and a paragraph that is followed by audio. And if I save and refresh, now that's looking a lot better. And to change that width, we're going to go audio. Oops, not that. There we go. And our width, I'm just going to set it to be 100% because I believe save. That'll push that all the way out. That makes it look like it fills the space. We've got a consistent flow of text and that figure, if you will, or that audio snippet here. That's looking a lot better. And then there was one more kind of similar. Let's do our video. It's going to be basically the same thing. Iframe video. That's all going to be the same deal, right? We've got iframe followed by a paragraph, or paragraph followed by an iframe. And if I hit save and go back here, we've got our YouTube video now working a little bit better. We would change the width in this case on the actual element, the iframe itself, instead of on a CSS style. And then I believe this one's just our video element. So kind of like the audio, we can do the exact same thing right here. We're going to switch this out with video. And if I save and refresh, we can now see that we've got our video spacing. That's looking a lot better. We still have a lot to cover. There's quite a few more HTML elements. Thank you so much for sticking with me today, and I hope you've learned a lot. We did a lot about list items, unordered lists and ordered lists. Boy, those are fun and hard, and yeah, so that's kind of the importance of having a system like this where we go and dig into what makes things work. And so hopefully working those out means that you don't have to work as hard in the future, because we've kind of solved for a lot of these problems. So there's still more elements to come, and we'll do that on our next live stream about this. And thanks so much again.